I'm Olivia Suter.
And I'm Emma Bradbury. So we have a 2-person co-teaching lesson plan that we did. We did it on 9th grade algebra, and our lesson was solving two-step inequalities.
Our lesson is lesson 2 out of 3. So the first one would have been going over the symbols and like the one-step equations. So greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, or equal to. And then lesson 3 after this will be graphing, but we're going to focus on solving two-step equations. So we're going to start off with this video, and we are doing 9th grade, so it might seem a little young, but it's catchy and it'll help the students remember it, so even though they'll think it's silly, it's okay.
Was an alligator living in the swamp, sneak up on numbers and start to chomp. Whenever 2 numbers sat on the ground, she'd face the bigger one and gobble it down.
So we would play more than that, but just for time's sake, we won't. Then we'll go through, we have a PowerPoint, so we're working with the I do, we do, you do model, and so this part would be the I do. So we are going to start with a little reminder from the video and from their previous lessons, just to make sure they're on the same page. What are these symbols? We would really just point and then let them just say it out loud, just as a refresher. So greater than, less than, greater than, equal to, less than, or equal to.
All right, and then I would go about describing the goals of two-step inequality equations. So the first goal is that you want to get the variable by itself on one side of the symbol, and then the second goal is to get the numbers on the other side of the symbol. I would also ask them a question. This will just be a review question, a little bit of a reminder for them. So when a number is right next to the variable, what operation is that? So they'll have a choice between addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. During this PowerPoint, the students will be given whiteboards and expo markers, so they'll be able to answer and show us what they know. It's also a way for us to informally assess them. So once the students think about the answer, they'll write it down on their whiteboard and show me. Once I see most of the whiteboards up, I'll reveal the answer, and it'll be multiplication.
So then I'll take back over and I'll say, okay guys, so to solve a two-step inequality, there are 2 steps. Always remember, we're aiming to teach them the procedure of how to solve it rather than just give them the answers. So step 1 would be undo addition and or subtraction.
And then step 2 would be to undo the multiplication and division. So it's important for them to know that after they do the addition and subtraction, then they move on to the multiplication and division.
So while Emma goes through this example, I'm going to be writing on the board the steps just so they can use it as a reference.
Alrighty, so as a class, we would go through a practice problem. This will be up on the smartboard or PowerPoint up in the front of the classroom so every student can see. Again, they'll have a whiteboard to do this problem with. So I will first ask them, what do we do first? And based on their prior knowledge, they will write on their whiteboard what they think they do first to the question or to the equation. And then once everyone's whiteboards go up and I see what everyone knows, I will reveal the answer, and we will talk about how they subtract 45 from each side, because subtracting or addition is what you do first. And then we'll get the new equation, which will be, I will ask them what we do next. So they will know that you either divide or multiply. So they will look at the equation, write it down on their whiteboard what they think we do next, and then show me. Once I see most of the classes up again, I will reveal the answer, and then we'll get the new equation. Once the students get this equation, I'll ask them if there's anything else to simplify, and they should know if the variables are one side and the numbers are on the other, then it is as simplified as it can get.
So then I would switch over and take over, and I would basically do the same thing Emma did. So I would ask them what they do first, give them time to respond on their whiteboards. Then I would go over and say, okay, subtract 8 from both sides, because we do subtraction and addition first. Get a new equation, ask them what we do next, give them a moment to answer, and then show them what we do. And then this is a learning opportunity. It's something that we didn't mention before, but I'm using this in the PowerPoint to show them. whenever you divide by a negative sign, the inequality symbol flips in the answer. So I would note they wouldn't know this before this, so all of them would get it wrong, and I would say, oh, hey guys, just so you know. So the new equation would actually be y is less than or equal to -7 rather than greater than or equal to, just because of the rule. And then I would do the same thing Emma did and say, okay, is there anything else to simplify? Hoping that they say, well, no, because the variable is by itself on one side and then the number is by itself on the other side.
All right. So then we're moving on to the practice problems. These are different practice problems because we're going to let them work through them on their own on their whiteboards instead of going through them as a whole class, just to see what they know, what they need review on. So I'll have this equation up on the board, and I'll give them a couple minutes to try and work it out. Once they get the answer, they're going to raise their whiteboards up and show me. Once I see most of the whiteboards up, I'll move through and explain the problem, and we'll walk through it. So we add 11 to each side, new equation. What do we do next? I'll let them know that we divide it by 6, and then we have a new equation. And then they should know that we don't have to simplify any farther because x is on one side and 4 is on the other.
I'm going to do the same thing with Emma as Emma did, and then go give them another equation, give them time to go over it on their whiteboards, and then once I see people finishing up, I'll have them show it to me, and then we'll just all go through the steps together to make sure they all got to the right answer. So you would first subtract because it's the first step, get a new equation, then you would divide, and then of course I would have another where you're dividing by a negative just to remind them that when you're dividing by a negative, you would flip the inequality sign, new equation, got it. And then, again, ask them, all right, m is greater than -4, is this done? And hopefully they'll know, they'll start to get that because the variable is by itself and because the numbers are by itself, then yes. Okay, so then we're going to move into our next part of the activity part of the lesson.
All right, so I'll get up and I will explain the activity. There will be 10 questions around the room. These will be posted actually before the students come in, but I'll direct their attention to them. So I'll explain what we're going to do in the activity. We're going to pair 2 students up with each other in pairs, and then they're going to work on the problems around the room together and put their answer on a sticky note. I will be pairing the students up two together at a time, and then Olivia will be passing out Post-it notes to each student.
Mm-hmm. And then when she is pairing them up and she's going to assign them a problem to start on. And this is just so all the students are spread out and they can work at their own pace and not clump up all together. But then again, after they're spread out to their one, they can, like I said, move at their own pace and go around the room and solve their problems. So we would be facilitating by both of us walking around to different groups and one, be observing how they're working together, 2, explicitly asking them questions to explain their thinking. We would get in on their problem solving. And then 3, we would be looking at the other answers maybe other students have posted, and if students are struggling, we can help them figure out how they can get to the answer by looking at the answers that were already given, comparing it, just giving them strategies. And then after 10 minutes, we would come together and decide as a team, do we think the students need more time or less time?
And then once their pair is done answering all 10 questions and they've used all 10 of their sticky notes, they're going to take a seat. That way we know which students are done and which students are still working.
Yep. And then, so once the students are all kind of sitting, one of us would give the direction of, 5 more minute warning, whatever it is, to start to wrap it up, to give them the signal that it's time to wrap it up. And then the other one would be passing out exit tickets to each student, which would have 4 questions, just like we've been doing the whole time, 4 summary questions on there. And then one of us would explain to them, this is your exit ticket, fill it out and hand it to one of us as you're walking out.
So that would be our lesson wrap up.
Yep. And then so we would informally assess by their answers up on the board. And then, we forgot to mention, before they wrap up and we move to the exit ticket, I would go through the first five equations on the board, and I would go through the answers, and if the answers are different, I would separate the Post-it notes, the ones that have the same answers on one side, the other same answers on the other side, or wherever, to group them out. And then we would all, as a class, go through them and figure out the right answer all together. But if the answers are right, all of them are the same, I would just check our teacher answer key, and then just move on to the next one.
Yeah, and we'd also split that, like, first 5 Olivia would do, the second 5 that I would do. That way they can see our co-teaching.
Yeah.
We both know.
Yeah, and then during her co-teaching is where I would pass out the exit tickets, or if it was flipped,